Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our rural non-congregate feeding training this afternoon. As always, a few things before we get started. Our cameras and microphones are turned off for the duration of the training. If you have a question throughout the training, just feel free to drop it in the chat or raise your hand and someone will take your microphone off of mute. Following the training, you will get an email with the link to the training materials as well as the QR code to earn your professional development hours. And we will also be posting these materials on Teachall. So without further ado, I am going to hand it off to our trainer this afternoon, our Senior Data and Compliance Manager, Ms. Randa Mead.
I'm Randa, I'm the Senior Data and Compliance Manager. Today we're going to be talking about the seamless summer option with rural non-congregate feeding. So here is our newest disclaimer regarding generative AI tools. So the state of Tennessee does not currently permit the use of generative AI tools such as Otter in meetings hosted on state resources. Meetings with contractors, vendors, and subrecipients are not public meetings and may involve discussion of protected state data. Generative AI tools are not adequately regulated and are designed to train on data that is collected and may misrepresent data or release protected data to the general public. While the state supports your desire to maintain documentation of the meeting and what you learn, please respect our decision to safeguard information and do not attempt to use tools such as these. If you choose to use a tool such as this, the state will block that tool from the meeting. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, our mission statement for the school nutrition program is to develop extraordinary school nutrition professionals and provide strategies to increase the consumption of healthy school meals. So today's agenda, we're going to review general SSO requirements. I am not going to go super in depth on these because we did talk about them in our general SSO training, but we have all the material here together. We're going to talk about rural non-congregate requirements and the SSO application process, which includes the supplemental application for rural non-congregate meals. Okay, so let's talk about general SSO requirements. SSO is a streamlined option for providing summer meals by continuing to follow several of the same operational requirements, such as the National School Lunch Program, School Breakfast Program, meal pattern, and procedures for filing claims and determining student eligibility. So some similarities between NSLP and SSO is we follow the same meal patterns. We still have to keep accurate production records. You have to maintain calorie, sodium, fat limitations, must create and follow HACCP plans. Only meals served can be claimed for reimbursement. You must keep accurate meal counts, and unless approved to operate a non-congregate model, meals must be consumed on-site in a congregate setting. So of course, this is talking about rural non-congregate feeding. So we're going to talk about how you can gain the approval to operate the non-congregate model. Just a general overview, we have us at the state agency, you, the SFAs, are considered sponsors, and then you operate sites, which is where the feeding actually happens, or in the case of non-congregate, where meals are distributed. So again, let's talk a little bit about SSO sites. The site is where the food is consumed by the child and where meal counts are taken. Sites are not where food is prepared. So if you have a central kitchen and you're distributing at multiple locations, each of those locations would need to be a site. The one exception to this would be if you're operating non-congregate as a home delivery model, you would have one home delivery site and not each individual house being a site. So each location where food is consumed or distributed, if operating a non-congregate model, must be a site in TMAC, and all program requirements must be met. So for site types and reimbursements, we have open, which also includes restricted open, closed enrolled, camp, and migrant. The two big ones that we see are open and closed enrolled. For open sites, meals are served on a first come, first served basis, serves all children age 18 and under, and the site must be area eligible. For closed enrolled, you have a specific group of children that you're serving meals to, and only those children enrolled in a program can receive, you can only receive reimbursement for meals served to those children. Okay, so area eligibility. We have a slide that we're going to get to in a few that's a little bit different about rural non-congregate, but by and large, to operate rural non-congregate sites, the site must be area eligible. So in order to be area eligible, the site must be located in an area where poor economic conditions exist, and it can be determined using the following data. In a second, we're also going to talk about rural eligibility. So for rural non-congregate summer sites, they must be both area eligible and be classified as rural based on USDA data. So for school level data, the site is located in the attendance area of a school where at least 50% of enrolled students are eligible for free or reduced price meals. The specific site address does not have to be a site that has at least 50% of enrolled students eligible for free or reduced price meals. The site or the address could be a park near an elementary school that has at least 50% free and reduced eligibility, or the site address could be a high school with at least 50% free and reduced less than 50% free and reduced eligibility, but an elementary or middle school that feeds into that high school has at least the 50%, and then it qualifies the site. Sites that are participating in CEP must use the individual site's free claim percentage, so the identified student percentage times 1.6, and not the group's free claim percentage. We do have some sites that claim meals at greater than 50% free, but that individual site itself has a free and reduced percentage that wouldn't actually qualify it as area eligible. And area eligibility can be really tricky. So if you have any questions about it, you can feel free to reach out to me or Latricia or your regional consultant. Area eligibility, you can also use census data. So we have two maps that we utilize for census data. One is from USDA, and I think Lexi's going to drop that in the chat, the link. So they have changed the census map. It used to be red and blue. It is now green and gray, and I think it makes more sense because now green is coded to mean yes, and green means go. The prior coding always made my head hurt because I had to think about it extra. So I'm going to look up the office address. Oh. Oh. And so here, where the school nutrition office is downtown, it's gray. It would not be area eligible. But if someone wanted to have a site over here in Bicentennial Mall, it would be area eligible because it's green. Another option is the No Kid Hungry map, which averages census block group data. This is a long page, a landing page with additional information about how the map works. And then this is the actual map. So they have gray is not eligible, orange is eligible on its own, and then blue is averaged eligible. So I'm going to search for the same office address. And we can see that it shows up gray. So it's also not available. It's not averaged eligible, but we have some blue sections over here that would be averaged. This map will also show you the rural designation information. So if you click on the layers, you can turn off or on the rural map. So any of these green areas would be also considered rural. There's a lot of data in this map, so it can be slow to load, but you do have the links in the chat to save those. The big thing about census data that is different from school data is the specific address must itself be considered area eligible for the site to be, for you to use the census area, the census data. There is no attendance area when it comes to using census data. That's all of the information I essentially just went over, links, maps, all of the fun stuff. Okay, there's also a rural non-congregate specific site type, which is called conditional non-congregate. Okay, so this is a non-congregate site that is established in an area that does not meet area eligible requirements. It must still be classified as rural, and you have to maintain individual child eligibility. So every student that comes to get a meal pack, you must know if they qualify for free, reduced, or paid meals. And you only get reimbursed for meals served to children who are eligible for free or reduced price meals. All of those would be reimbursed at the free rate, but you must not overtly identify eligible students. So you have to have some way to pay for those paid meals that is not federal money, while also maintaining student eligibility and not overtly identifying those students. I haven't fully wrapped my head around how this would, could, should work without overtly identifying students. So if you are in a rural area and you are not area eligible and you want to do this, we can talk about it. I'm just being completely honest that I don't fully understand how USDA intended for this to work and do all the things that you're supposed to do to make it happen. So that's conditional non-congregate sites. So for meal counting, meal counts must be taken at the point of service. Meals must contain all required components or items. Only one reimbursable meal can be served per child per meal service. So if you're doing multiple meals at once, you want to make sure that they're not getting meals from your site and meals from another site that would exceed that one reimbursable meal per child per meal service. You can utilize your typical point of sale system for meals served in schools or in rural non-congregate. We often see the provisional meal count form in using tally sheets. We also created a rural non-congregate specific meal counting sheet, and that is demonstrated later in the presentation. Each of your sites must be monitored once during operation, and at minimum, you must review the site's compliance with meal counting, claiming, menu planning, and food safety requirements. For administrative reviews, if you operate SSO the summer following your regular administrative review, the SSO program will also be reviewed. And if you're operating non-congregate feeding sites, you will have a review of your non-congregate feeding operation and a review of your congregate feeding operation. Okay, let's go over the meal pattern. So for breakfast, we have 3 required components: fruit, milk, and grains. I've included the 5 and also the 7-day meal pattern in this presentation because I know a lot of y'all are doing 7 days worth of meals, whether that's operating one day and providing 7 days of meals, or you're operating twice a week and doing like a 3 and a 4, or you're operating daily, Monday through Thursday, and then providing weekend meals. We have a lot of 7-day operations. So I wanted to make sure I specifically included the 7-day meal pattern here. Here are the dietary specifications for breakfast. For your required components at lunch, you have fruit, milk, grain, vegetable, meat alternate. Again, here's the typical 5-day meal pattern that you're familiar with, and the 5-day vegetable subgroup requirements. I also included the 7-day meal pattern here. And I also included the 7-day meal pattern for vegetable subgroups, because I know, again, a lot of y'all are doing the 7 days. I'm not going to go into super depth on the meal patterns because we covered that on our other SSO training, but you'll have the slides to refer to as a resource. And then USDA provides meal pattern requirements for short and long weeks. So they have 5, 6, 7. They even have 3 and 4-day meal patterns. So I linked to. Oh, thank you, Lexi. I was about to put it in the chat, but I forgot you were going to do that. So the link that Lexi just put in the chat goes here, and it gives you the requirements for, like I said, the short and long week. You have a 3-day, 4-day, 6, and 7. Okay, so what meal combinations can you serve? You can do breakfast and lunch, breakfast and snack, breakfast and supper, lunch and snack. You could do snack and supper. The 2 that you cannot do together are lunch and supper. Supper does follow the same meal pattern as lunch and receive the same reimbursement as lunch. Okay, so now let's get into the nitty-gritty of what we are here for, and that is non-congregate meals. So this is meal service available for rural areas. I do want to kind of provide a little bit of clarification around what the expectations are for rural non-congregate. So rural non-congregate is allowed by USDA law regulation. So you do not have to have a waiver to operate rural non-congregate meals. However, we do still require a supplemental application if you're operating rural non-congregate. The reason being is we have reporting requirements that are due to USDA that are not captured within your TMAC site application. And so in order to get all of the data that we need to report to USDA, we have a supplemental application. So, non-congregate meal service, we've had a handful of policy memos We have SP05-2024. That was the initial implementation guidance. Then we had SP06-2024, which was revising the definition of rural. Then we have 3 question and answer set of policy memos. We have SP13-2024, SP15-2024, and SP08-2025. And those are all linked here in the presentation. Okay, so for non-congregate meal service, non-congregate meals may only be served in an area that meets guidelines for rural designation. So if you have a site that you would like to serve meals at that is not rural on USDA maps, we are allowed to submit rural pocket requests. I will be completely honest and say none of our rural pocket requests were approved last year. And I still haven't fully determined all of the hoops that USDA wants us to jump through to get a rural pocket approved. So I'm not saying that we won't submit one. I'm just saying I don't have hope of one getting approved. So if at all possible, you have a actual site that can be rural somewhere within close proximity, I would use that over trying to get a rural pocket request approved. So it must be located in an area that does not have congregate meal service. It must be located at a location that meets area eligibility requirements, which we discussed earlier, unless you're operating a conditional non-congregate site. And non-congregate meals are not intended to replace congregate meal service. Here is the beautiful USDA 7 CFR 225.2 definition of rural. I am not going to read this to you word for word. What we will do is look at the map. So if y'all remember, a couple of years ago, this map was not very favorable to us. Thankfully, they have changed the definition and the map so that it is much more favorable. And everywhere on this map that is green is considered rural and is eligible for a non-congregate site. It still has to be area eligible. So here's the rural map. I always click view larger map. So I'm just going to search for Tennessee. I will say if you are in an area that has where you have a school or something that's really close to the line of rural versus non-rural, there have been a couple of instances where I've searched for like the name of a school. And when you search the name of the school, it shows up as the actual address and not rural. But then if you search like the actual address, it will show up on the other side of the line as rural. So if you're really close, I would encourage you to search the address in multiple ways to see if you might qualify. But here is the map. Here's the Middle Tennessee area. You can search by address. You can search by the name of a park or a school. And if it is green, then it is rural and therefore eligible to operate a non-congregate site. Okay, so some definitions of first are service model descriptions. Non-congregate is a site where meals are served only in the non-congregate setting. A combination site is you have both congregate and non-congregate meals being served. This is when you have like you're doing some type of summer programming, let's say Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday, and then you want to send home weekend meals for the other 2 to 3 days. Those would be non-congregate meals on those 2 to 3 days, but you have congregate the first half of the week. That is a combination site. And then home delivery is if meals are being delivered directly to homes of families. Then we also have meal type descriptions. So we have bulk items. In the non-congregate meal service, these are specific food items provided in a larger quantity than required for a single meal service. Or we have unitized meals, and these are foods that are individually portioned, packaged, and served as a unit. These are important descriptors and definitions when it comes to that supplemental application that you are going to submit to us for your rural non-congregate sites, because this is the type of information that we need for our USDA reporting purposes. So some high-level things: food safety standards must be maintained, just like we do at all of our other feeding sites. The non-congregate site must still establish meal service times. We have flexibility on those meal service times, though, because you can serve breakfast and lunch, for example, at the same time. And you could serve breakfast at 11 to noon, which would typically be a lunch hour. So we do have that flexibility, but you have to still say, this is what day and time my site will operate. Offer versus serve may be implemented. Now, offer versus serve is always, always, always optional for SSO, whether you're doing congregate, non-congregate, bulk, not bulk. You are never required to operate offer versus serve with SSO. But it's always an option. Okay, so when providing unitized meals, you may provide up to 10 days worth of meals. It is not recommended that you regularly do this because it's very difficult to put that information into your TMAC application and to communicate to families when you're going to be providing meals. If you have the times that we have really seen this happen is like if you're serving, let's say at the end of June, and you're taking a break for the first week of July, it might make sense to do 10 days. Or on your last day of operation before you shut down and take a break before school starts, you might do 10 days. But we really don't encourage you to do 10 days on a regular basis. If you're providing bulk meals, you cannot provide more than 5 days worth of bulk meals without state agency approval. How do you get state agency approval for more than 5 days? It's part of that supplemental application. This year, we're asking a couple of different questions about bulk. We are asking you, are you providing any bulk? You'll say yes or no, because we are doing this as an online form, which I'll show in a minute. And then we are going to ask, okay, well, are you providing the entire meal as bulk, or are you only doing specific components? And you'll provide us that information. And then we encourage a maximum of 7 days of meals when implementing multiple day distribution. Okay, we have a question. What if a district wants to offer non-congregate meal service at its school, but is also offering summer outreach? I think that's what summer reach is. Would the summer reach be considered congregate meal service? The anytime that you have meals that are being served on site, consumed on site in your typical summer feeding pattern, that is congregate. Now, if you have a summer enrichment activity and you're doing that as a closed enrolled site, so you know that only the specific students are going to be there, you can also serve rural non-congregate to the rest of the community at an open site in the same way. So since the general public would not have access to that congregate site, that's how you can do both in that scenario. I think that is what that question is asking. If you need more clarification, let me know. Okay. For bulk food distribution, you must ensure the following when using bulk food items. The required food components for each reimbursable meal served have to meet the meal pattern requirements at 7 CFR 210 and 220. All food items that contribute to a reimbursable meal are clearly identifiable, and menus are provided and clearly indicate the food items and portion sizes for each reimbursable meal. Now, I did have an advanced question about offering a variety of milk and whether that's required with non-congregate. Since we are required to meet the meal pattern requirements at 7 CFR 210 and 220, it is still required to offer a variety of milk during your non-congregate meal service. Could you have a summer outreach program at the school, but also send meals out the door as non-congregate? If you're doing a summer outreach program at the school, let's say Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday, and then you want to send home weekend meals, you are allowed to do that, and that would be a combination option. You could not have a summer outreach program be an open site and then send out bulk meals as an open site at the same location. For bulk food distribution, you must also ensure the following. Food preparation, such as heating or warming, is minimal. We'll talk about that a little bit more in depth in a second. And then the maximum number of reimbursable meals provided to a child does not exceed the number of meals that could be provided over a 5 calendar day period or less. If the state agency establishes a shorter calendar day period for multi-day use on a case-by-case basis. Similarly, a state agency may provide or may approve a sponsor to provide up to 10 days worth of bulk meals on a case-by-case basis when the state agency determines that the sponsor has taken reasonable steps to ensure program integrity and that such service is needed and appropriate. Again, you're going to communicate all of those things to us through the supplemental application that is required before your TMAC app can be approved. Milk and juice can be provided in bulk without doing the kind of as extreme requirements, because we have milk and juice and that's pretty obvious how it is to be handled. But you still have to communicate to us that you are going to provide either milk or juice in bulk. Okay, so some more bulk food information for minimal preparation. So USDA has clarified that foods required to be microwaved are allowable. And microwaving is included in the minimal preparation definition, such as a raw potato cooked in the microwave or pre-cooked chicken to be reheated in the microwave. For vegetables and fruits, we want you to consider what a young child would be able to eat on their own. So a raw onion would not be accessible for a child to eat on their own and should not be included in bulk meal distribution. But something like a head of lettuce, a whole apple or orange, celery, or carrot sticks, those are all things that a kid could eat on their own, would potentially eat on their own. And so those would be okay for bulk meal distribution. Okay, so we have some follow-up questions on the milk. Um, so there's a question that it says, would we have to give then a half gallon of white milk and a half gallon of chocolate? And that's not necessarily the case. When you're in school, the kid chooses if they want white milk or they want chocolate milk. So the kid could choose if they want a gallon of white milk or a gallon of chocolate milk. Not saying that you have to provide both to each family, but there does have to be a choice of milk because that is part of the meal pattern. And one of those does have to be unflavored. Okay, parent guardian pickup. Parent and guardian pickup is allowed. You must have procedures and processes in place that ensure meals are distributed only to the parents or guardians of eligible children and that duplicate meals are not distributed. Only parents or guardians are allowed to pick up for children and no proxy pickup is allowed. Home delivery. Home delivery must be advertised and made available when implemented. You cannot offer home delivery to only a certain subset of students. If you're offering it to one student, it has to be made available to all students. You must obtain written parental consent before implementing a home delivery service. Each address along the delivery route must be classified as rural, and the child does not have to be present when meals are delivered. So if you were doing a home delivery, we would need to know that. You would put it in TMAC as a home delivery, but we would still need to know all of the places along that route that are where you're stopping to hand out meals. More milk questions. What if we can only get low-fat white milk in gallons or half gallons? My vendor has whole chocolate milk in half and gallon. Well, we can't offer whole milk because that is not part of the meal pattern. So when we talk about a variety of milk, could you get fat-free and low fat? Because that's still offering a variety. We often jump to flavored and unflavored, but different fat contents also constitute the variety. For home delivery consent forms, the parental consent form must include the confirmation of their address and their contact information, the number of eligible household in the number of eligible children in the household. Optional best practice ideas for home delivery is or providing information for maintaining food safety, information to assist with program integrity, delivery instructions, planned vacation times, or other times when the household may not be available for the home delivered meals. Okay, meal counts must be taken at the point of service. Again, just like regular meals. Meals must contain all required components or items, and only one reimbursable meal can be served per child per meal, just like with congregate meals and regular SSO. Okay, here's the non-congregate meal counting form that I referred to earlier. We took the provisional feeding tally sheet and added some additional fields to make it align better with non-congregate meal service. So we added fields that include the number of meals distributed, the intended consumption dates, and the total number of meals served. So non-congregate meal counting form. What we have added here is we have the serving date, which would be your distribution date. And then you're putting the number of meals you're distributing. So if you're doing a 7-day meal pack, you would put 7. If you're doing a 3-day meal pack, you would put 3. And then for each meal pack that you provide, you're going to do 1 tally mark. So then at the end of the day, you take your number of tallies times your number of consumption days, and that gives you the total meals that are served. This really streamlines your process because you're not trying to say, okay, I just served 1 meal pack to this family and they had 5 kids, and so that was 7 days of meals, and now I have to make 35 tally marks. You would just make 1 tally for each child that you distributed to and do your math after the fact. This is not a requirement. I would highly encourage you to use it, though, if you are doing a multiple day distribution, or to have some other type of way to keep up with those tallies so that, again, you're not trying to say, okay, I just did 3 kids and how many meals is that? Make your life more simple if you can. Okay, so some examples of procedures to prevent meal duplication include requesting parents and guardians provide their children's names or other identifying information when picking up meals, using rosters or sign-in sheets, cross-referencing sign-in sheets, such as if you have multiple sites in close proximity, using technology-based solutions such as QR codes for sign-in sheets or some type of registration system. When it comes to these types of procedures and preventing the duplication, I will give a huge shout out to No Kid Hungry. They have wonderful, inventive ways of helping you to ensure program integrity that have been demonstrated not only in our state, but in other states across the nation. And again, I highly recommend if you're thinking of something, there's a good chance they've done it or seen it. And so they're a great resource to reach out to. Again, we have the same daily meal combinations that are allowed, just like we talked about a little bit earlier. Okay, so for your non-congregate meal service production records, we want you to complete a separate production record for each individual meal that is provided. So for example, if you're distributing 3 lunches and 3 breakfasts at one time, you would complete a total of 6 production records to help you maintain and understand what all is being served and that you're meeting your reimbursable meals. Okay, so for the non-congregate application process, you're going to submit the approval to operate 2025 SSO non-congregate meal service in rural areas form. That is a mouthful. Those will be received and reviewed by Latricia. She will approve your non-congregate sites and we'll send you and your regional consultant an email. And then you can have your TMAC application for non-congregate sites approved. And then you can operate non-congregate sites. So this is a little bit different than what we did last year. Really the last 2 years, we had a PDF fillable form, and then we had to do a lot of data entry. So we're switching it up a little bit to hopefully make things more streamlined overall. And this form is not yet approved, but we're working on it and we'll send this out when it is approved. So I'm just going to show you what it would look like. It says, welcome to the rural non-congregate application. There will be logic in this that so if it's if we ask you, will you be doing bulk at this site, and you say yes, then you'll see the bulk questions. Will you be doing parent or guardian pickup? If you say yes, then you'll see the parent or guardian pickup questions. So you're going to tell us what you're going to select your SFA, who you are. You're going to tell us your email address, and then you're going to give us the site name as it is in TMAC, the site number as it is or will be in TMAC, and then your site address. And then you're going to tell us again all the things that we've talked about. And this will flow a little bit differently once we apply the logic, but this is just so you can kind of see what it's going to look like. And you will need to submit the survey for each of your rural non-congregate sites so that we can have the data and information for all of your non-congregate sites. And then we also have an attestation statement saying for the bulk, especially if you're doing bulk meals, that you're going to meet all the bulk meal requirements that are set forth by USDA. When will it be available? We hope within the next few days, but we cannot send it out until it is approved by our higher ups. And knock on wood, that process has been going decently quickly the last couple of weeks. So we will be sure to get it out to y'all when it is approved and available. Okay, so again, the application process for rural non-congregate is a two-part process. You have the supplemental application and your TMAC application. I just talked about these. I'm going to talk about your SFA, or sorry, your the TMAC application process. There's a couple of places specifically that I want to talk about, and I want to save a couple of I want to make sure we have some time for additional questions. So if a district is operating 3 non-congregate rural sites, they will need to submit 3 separate applications. That is correct. This is how you would add a new site. We want all non-congregate sites to have the site number NC to indicate to us that it is non-congregate. These are all the things that we talked about in the regular training. Again, your eligibility. Okay, here's the non-congregate piece of the application. So you will answer, do you provide or do you plan to provide non-congregate meals at this site? Yes, no, or both. If you answer no, that you're not doing non-congregate, you're good, you're done. That's not what you're here for. You're here for non-congregate. So if you're doing non-congregate at the site, you'll select yes, and then you will tell us this additional information. Whether if there was a waiver due to excessive heat, would you be requesting that? Do you plan to provide non-congregate meals at this location as a rural location? So y'all are here for rural non-congregate, so you would say yes. Then you'll tell us whether or not multiple days of meals will be provided. Then you're going to check the days that meals are actually distributed. You're going to tell us how many calendar days of meals are included and which meals you're going to provide in bulk. If you're providing meals in bulk, you'll answer the parent guardian and then the home delivered as well. Now, I know you're going to say, you said that we have to do this supplemental application because it's not captured in TMAC. And now you're telling me that I have to answer this in both places. Yes, that is true. You have to answer it in both places because we unfortunately are not able to extract this in a way that we need it to report to USDA. So that's why you see the same questions on the supplemental application as you do on the side app. Now, this is what it currently looks like in your site application. At some unspecified point in the next 2 to 3 months, this question is going to change just slightly. I don't have the specific day or the specific time period because it's something that we're working on with our vendor. But I just want you all to be aware that after you submit your application and it's approved, if you go back to make edits, it may look a little bit different. And the thing that looks different is that it separated out if there is a waiver for non-congregate meals due to excessive heat. Are you requesting the site to be included? Yes or no? All the other questions are essentially the same. But I wanted y'all to know that this will eventually be happening. Okay, I'm gonna skip forward and talk about claims because we did not talk about this piece in depth last year. So if you're operating non-congregate feeding, rural non-congregate feeding, you need to be submitting site-based claims. So if you are one of a handful of our SFAs who are operating rural non-congregate and still submitting a consolidated claim, please let Latrice know, and she will change your claim from consolidated to site-based. And then if you want to go back to consolidated or SFA level claim at the beginning of the school year, we can change that back. But if you're doing non-congregate, you must submit site-based claims. Okay, so this is your standard claim. You're going to tell us the number of lunches and the number of breakfasts that you've served. And then down at the bottom, you're going to tell us the number of meals that were taken off site. Essentially, how many of those meals were served as non-congregate. So if your site is only non-congregate, the number of meals taken off site should match your total meal counts. If you're doing a hybrid where you have congregate and non-congregate, those numbers we would expect to be different. This will also be changing slightly in a couple of months. So I could see the claim screen change having a bigger impact on you than the application. Again, I don't have a specified date or time. We'll do our best to let y'all know when that happens. But it will be changing. So the next screen is going to go over that. I want you to be aware. We don't love changing things midstream, but this is all tied to our reporting that we are required to do on a monthly basis to USDA. And in order for us to report what we need to report, or are required to report, we have to change this. So once those changes are made, it's going to look like this. So again, this part, the way that it looks now with the number of meals taken off-site, this is for data gathering only, and it does not have any impact on your reimbursement. it is still really important that you provide to us accurate numbers here so that we can report accurately to USDA. When this changes, you will put the total number of non-congregate meals served, and then you will also put the number of distribution days. So if you're distributing once a week and there's 4 weeks in a month, this would be 4. If you're distributing twice a week and there's 4 weeks, it would be 8-ish, depending on how those days of the month fall. So number of days non-congregate meals were distributed, those are our distribution days. And then the number of days non-congregate meals were provided, these are the consumption days, as we call them. So if you're providing meals for every day of the month, then you would put that here in the number of days non-congregate meals were provided. Again, this is for data and reporting purposes, but I wanted you to be aware of the upcoming change for once it is available. Okay, this is my contact information. I know we skipped through quite a bit of that at the end, but I wanted to make sure we hit on those and to get to questions. Okay, more milk questions. If we offer a shelf-stable chocolate milk for meal bags for a breakfast and a lunch, in addition to the 1% milk half gallons, we've met the requirement for variety. Correct. I don't fully understand what you're proposing there, so I'm not going to say that you've definitely met or not met. So, Angela, we can probably, let's follow up after this to talk about that in a little bit more depth. Okay, just to clarify, can non-congregate meals be offered at the congregate site during the same serving window, but not at the same time congregate meals are served? My answer to that is it depends. For your congregate site, if it's closed enrolled, so you're targeting a specific group, potentially it could be allowable to either do it at the same time or a different time. The most important thing that we're getting at with congregate and non-congregate is, for one, non-congregate has to be located in an area where children do not have access to a congregate meal. And then we also want to make sure that we're maintaining the 1 meal per child per day requirement. So that's why we also need some separation in congregate and non-congregate, because you don't want to have your congregate meal service serving kids and then provide those same meals again to those same kids in a non-congregate setting. Okay. Looks like I'm currently caught up on questions. If you have more, you can drop those in the chat. I'll do my best to answer. And if I only made you more confused today, please send me an email and we will work on getting it fixed, because non-congregate feeding is clear as mud, just like a lot of things we do with USDA requirements. But we're hopefully making it as straightforward for you as possible. So, all right. I'm not seeing any more questions. Will we have access to these slides, or will this information be reviewed during regional trainings? What a wonderful question. We are going back over this information again at your regional meetings so that you can hear it again and get additional info. And it will also be posted in Teach All with the recording of this training. All right, I think that's it. Lexi, do you have any closing remarks?
I do not. Thank you so much. You covered everything I was just about to. So, again, we'll be sending up this information in a follow-up email. It will be posted on Teach All as soon as that YouTube recording link is available to us. And again, covered in those regional meetings. So, thank you all for giving us part of your afternoon, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.